Black Power, Black Beauty, Black by popular demand. This is Black's History Month, a 28-day celebration of Black exploitation films. Amazing Grace is the type of movie where talking about the people in it and how influential they are is probably more important than talking about the actual movie itself. Amazing Grace stars legendary comedian Moms Mabley, a pioneer for women stand-up comedians and a trailblazer with a bunch of accolades that I don't have time to name, which includes being the first woman comedian to perform at the Apollo Theater. During the 20s and 30s, she made a name for herself on the Chitlin circuit and eventually grew to become a mentor for future comedians both male and female alike. She's most recognizable in her giant grandma gowns and unique hats, and her act usually consists of her being a sassy old lady who sometimes brags about being able to pull younger men. You can easily see her influence in characters like Tyler Perry's Medea and a bunch of other old lady type characters, and I encourage you to seek out more info about her amazing life story. And that brings me to 1974's Amazing Grace. By this point, Moms Mabley was 77 years old, and although this is not her first film, it is her first film where she is the star and the focus of the story, and probably her first film to have a wide theatrical release. To say she was in the sunset of her career is an understatement. Unfortunately, it shows, because Mabley delivers her lines in a way that makes you struggle to understand what's being said. And although you do catch glimpses of her greatness, you spend most of the movie trying to decipher the joke. Not because it's not funny, but because you can barely hear it.
That child teaching me to make some sense. You know, that's worrying me. Them people next door to me, and I don't know nothing about them. I like to know who's around me.
Watching Mabley in this movie is like listening to a sweet old lady talk to you, but you just smile and nod because you didn't understand a damn thing she just said. But even saying all that, it's somewhat helped by the story. Mabley plays Grace Teasdale Grimes, a sassy old lady not unlike her stand-up counterpart, and she's not even trying to beat the old lady nosy neighbor allegations. She catches her neighbor one day having an argument with his wife, during which Grace realizes that he's running for mayor of Baltimore, and being that he's a black man, it intrigues her. The guy running for mayor is Welton J. Waters, and he's played by Moses Gunn, who I've talked about numerous times previously. He's the best actor in this movie by a wide margin, and I'm not even really shocked about it, because Moses Gunn never disappoints. The dude was like the monologue master of the 70s. Every movie he's in that I've talked about, you can just feel the emotions coming off the screen.
2 law degrees. 2 of them. One of them is a master's. I learned city government inside out and back. Then I found out what I needed. Money. Big folks' money.
His wife is played by Rosalind Cash, who I've also talked about frequently. She's also great here as a tragic mulatto and a self-hating alcoholic.
Don't you dare act like you're gonna hit me! You wanna swell up my pretty little thin lips. That's what you like about me, isn't it? My thin lips, my narrow nose, my light skin, and my good hair.
The two of them together pretty much do all the heavy lifting here, and probably should have been the focus, especially since this film is technically supposed to be about the fact that Waters is only being propped up to be mayor by white politicians and land developers who are using him to split the liberal vote. That part is intriguing, but you gotta remember, this movie was first and foremost set up to be a vehicle for Moms Mabley, so she gets an overwhelming amount of screen time, along with her live-in little friend, Forworth Wilson, played by comedian veteran Slappy White. It's not until about an hour into the movie that Grace interjects herself into Waters' life and decides to help him actually win the election. This stuff should have been shifted way up to earlier in the film. It may sound like I think the movie is bad, but on the contrary, it's actually passable. You just have to look at it in proper context. By modern standards, Moms Mabley may come across as a little antiquated, maybe a little annoying even, but you gotta look at Amazing Grace as kind of a tribute movie. where the makers of the film probably didn't want to be too heavy-handed on the script and allowed Miss Mabley to do her own thing. The film was directed by Stan Lathan, a very prolific film and TV director and producer, who's also the father of Sanaa Lathan. He most likely grew up a fan of Mabley and other vaudeville and Chitlin Circuit actors and comedians. Some of them even make cameos like Stepin Fetchit and Butterfly McQueen, who's hilarious here.
I wanna know, who do they work for the mayor?
Mayor? A mare is a horse, a lady horse. No one would do day work for a lady horse.
I knew I shouldn't have called this woman.
So with that in mind, you kinda have to overlook the seemingly incoherent ramblings of Grace Teasdale, especially since Mabley put everything into the role, even suffering a heart attack during the filming. So determined was she to finish the movie, she came back 3 weeks later with a newly installed pacemaker and finished the film. That kind of dedication to the craft has to be admired, and even though the movie does have plenty flaws, the fact that it's Moms Mabley's final appearance on film and basically her last ever performance means that it deserves a special place in Black cinema history.